U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen stands as a distinguished economist and policy leader who has made remarkable contributions to building a more resilient U.S. and global economy. Her extensive expertise and commitment to economic justice have shaped her career and policy agenda. Her dedication to evidence-based policymaking and her commitment to addressing economic disparities make her a pivotal figure in shaping a more equitable and fruitful future for all. Yellen's legacy will undoubtedly leave a lasting impact on economic policy and the pursuit of a fairer, more prosperous world. The Atlantic Council is honored to celebrate her and her illustrious career tonight.
Please welcome Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland.
Bonjour mes amis. C'est un très grand plaisir, c'est un vrai honneur d'être ici avec vous ce soir pour célébrer mon ami, l'excellent secrétaire du Trésor des États-Unis, Madame Janet Yellen. We are today living through the most consequential moment in world history since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Brutal war has returned to Europe. People around the world are struggling with higher prices and elevated interest rates after a once-in-a-generation pandemic. Democracies are grappling with the clean energy transition, which is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution itself. And it was Chancellor Scholz, actually, who used that term in a meeting of finance ministers that Secretary Yellen and I were at when he was still a humble finance minister. At this profound historical inflection point for the global economy and for democracy itself, there is no person, and for sure there is no woman, more uniquely suited for the truly essential role she occupies than Secretary Janet Yellen. Now, why is Janet such a formidable leader for the world right now? First, because Secretary Yellen is a champion of economic policy that works for working people. As President Zelensky said, you can applaud if you like. The approach she cleverly described as modern supply-side economics, a belief that investing in people and building an economy from the middle out is the path to strong, steady growth. That approach will stand the test of time as the progressive response to the tried and failed plutocrat enriching policy of trickle-down economics. Second, we need Janet because Secretary Yellen has led and delivered a return of U.S. economic leadership in the world. She has been a real visionary in driving closer economic cooperation between partners in what she has called friendshoring our economies. Now, for a lot of people, for a lot of countries, a tempting response to Russia's illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine and to the economic vulnerabilities it exposed could have been autarky. Instead, thanks significantly to the work of Secretary Yellen, the United States, Canada, and democracies around the world, including many in this room, are working more closely together than ever before, building our supply chains through each other's economies, creating good careers for working people, and ensuring that democracies depend on democracies rather than on dictators. Third, Secretary Yellen's leadership has been critical in our response to Putin's illegal war in Ukraine. Before Putin invaded, Secretary Yellen was there in meeting after meeting, rallying the world to create a sanctions package which was historic in scale and which would snap into place if and when Putin's tanks crossed Ukraine's border. We all hoped so much that deterrence would work. But when it didn't, we were prepared. Since that very, very dark morning, Secretary Yellen has been leading the fight to hold Putin and his henchmen accountable and to squeeze their revenues for war, with measures like the freeze on the assets of the Russian central bank, an excellent idea, and the oil price cap. You can also applaud if you like to. Now, Secretary Yellen understands that, as she sometimes puts it at meetings of our allies, there are two fronts in this war, the military front and the economic front. She knows that we need to supply Ukraine with weapons and we need to supply Ukraine with money. And that is an effort Secretary Yellen has spearheaded. And let me just add, Canada has, of course, been there too, providing the highest level of per capita financial support to Ukraine of any G7 country. So at this pivotal moment for Ukraine, for democracy itself, we are all so fortunate to have Secretary Yellen leading this most consequential of efforts. Now, let me conclude where you may have expected me to start, with the glass ceiling. In his Life of Samuel Johnson, Boswell quotes Johnson as saying, "Sir, a woman's preaching is like a dog walking on his hind legs. It is not well done, but you're surprised to find it done at all." Now, an echo of that swaggering contempt is something I am sure every single woman in this room has heard, probably quite a few times, when she's been praised as the first woman to do whatever job she now holds. And that's why I didn't start by lauding Secretary Yellen as the first woman chair of the Federal Reserve and as the first woman secretary of the Treasury. Because the most important point about her is that she was an outstanding Federal Reserve chair, and she is a formidable Treasury secretary. But it is also, unfortunately, still true that her gender matters and that it makes a difference. It matters to women in the United States who are pursuing careers in economics and finance, fields where women are still vastly outnumbered. It matters to me and to every other woman in the room. We find it easier to speak up, and we find it a heck of a lot easier to be heard when we are in a meeting where the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, is speaking as well. Usually they let her talk first, by the way. And it matters to the billions of women around the world who see in Secretary Yellen their own rightful place at the head table of global leadership. In the nearly 3 years we've worked together, Secretary Yellen has been an incredibly important colleague, and she has also become a valued mentor and a friend. As an extra bonus, we make each other look tall in photos. And so I am really, really honored and really happy to introduce a remarkable leader, a champion for working people, a champion for democracy, a champion for Ukraine, and let's face it, a role model for every single woman in this room, in this country, and in the world. My friend, the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, Janet Yellen.
She's 5'0", but hands of God. She could pop a collar, she could rock a power bob. Bay Ridge represent, Brooklyn's in the cabinet. Damn, Janet, go and get it. Fifth up for president. She knows the kind of stimulus it takes to pass. I heard she called the House in crisis. She's qualified. It only took a couple centuries. The first female secretary of the Treasury. Don't want no tax evasion, fortune staking in the Treasury. Trying for higher wages for the nation, less disparity. Watch your step, there's busted glass. Janet broke another ceiling, you can bet your brass that the Lego guy is leaving. Let's check to cash. Excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chrystia, for your kind words and for your leadership, and thank you to the Atlantic Council. I'm honored to receive this award and to be among such distinguished fellow recipients. When I was born, the world was still recovering from the devastation of the Great Depression and the Second World War. From the rubble of these crises, the United States and many other countries charted a post-war course premised on a conviction that each nation's stability and growth depended on our collective security and prosperity. This is equally, if not more true today. I took office in the depths of the COVID-19 pandemic, which underscored just how interconnected we all are. From the beginning of the administration, we made clear that American isolation and retrenchment were over. And we set forth a new guiding principle. America is strongest when we engage with the world. As my nation's chief economic diplomat, I have since worked to faithfully apply that principle. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, we witnessed the determination of the Ukrainian people as they fought for their lives and their freedom and for the values we all share. And we knew we had to support them with a decisive response. As we look back on the past year and a half of the war, it's clear that many of our actions so far would have been impossible to undertake if any country were attempting them alone. Our unprecedented multilateral sanctions regime and novel price cap on Russian oil exports are effective in pressuring Russia only because we acted as a global coalition. And I believe the global economy is in a better place than many of us would have thought possible a year ago due to our collective actions. This commitment to multilateralism should drive our continued efforts to exert more pressure on Russia to end its unjust war and to support the Ukrainian people. And it should shape our actions in crises to come. Robust engagement with the world is not confined to moments of crisis, however. It's required, for example, to hold off the steady march of climate change, which is affecting communities across America and around the world. To invest in a global health system that can prevent and withstand the next pandemic, avoiding the immense human toll and economic damage like that we saw from COVID-19. To create a fairer international tax system that ends a race to the bottom and benefits working people around the world. So we have helped lead efforts to establish a pandemic fund and to align over 130 countries on a global minimum tax. We've put forward a new vision for development in the 21st century, focused on global challenges, and we've collaborated with others to evolve the multilateral development banks to make good on it. We're also working to stabilize relations with China by seeking a healthy economic relationship that benefits both sides and enables cooperation on global challenges while protecting our vital national security interests. In sum, we've engaged with the world, including through committed coalition building and with a view to building the global economy we need for the long term. In today's world, we're in it together, and we have to go at it together if we want to make our nations and the world safer, healthier, and more prosperous. Thank you again for this honor. I look forward to the collective work ahead of us. Thank you so much.